So, why is the gender conversation so contentious? Why do tempers flare up so quickly when we talk about issues of transgender, gender queerness? What is the definition of a woman? Who gets to use the word woman? What does it mean to have a gender identity, and what does it mean to validate or invalidate somebody's gender identity? And why is that such an emotionally fraught topic? So, gender is the very first separation that we experience when we come into the world. When a baby is born, even before a baby is born, most of the time in the Western world, we separate what kind of human this baby is going to be. It's male, it's female. It's a boy, it's a girl. And so even with ultrasound, we can do this even before the baby is birthed into the world. And from that moment on, we have a label stuck on us, and we have expectations on us on how we are going to be. Immediately, there are cultural expectations of what our future is going to look like, of what kind of personality traits we are likely to have, and so on. And so we experience the very, very first separation of ourself in the category of gender. So when we're looking at all of the different ways that people express their gender and have gender identities, and the way that has taken on a political dimension, it's really a way to try and heal the wound of separation, to try and come back to a place of authenticity, to try and integrate pieces of the self that became separated, that were not welcome, that we had to shut away, that we had to dissociate from, because we were in environments in which those pieces were not welcome. And this is especially true if we grew up to be gender atypical. So if a boy expressed very feminine traits, and even more so if that boy grew up in a family or in a culture, like a religious environment or just any kind of social environment in which those traits were particularly unwelcome and could even be encouraged to be disconnected from, or forced to be disconnected from, through abuse, through familiar and societal cultural pressure. And so when we as adults start to claim those broken away parts of ourself, it's really an attempt to integrate, to reintegrate and to heal that wound of separation. And unfortunately, what happens is that desire to integrate, to heal the pain of that first separation, unfortunately, that often gets coupled with control. So because it is so vulnerable, it is so painful, and it goes so deep, and it lives in such young parts of ourselves, it can be very coupled with fear. And it feels like the only way we can express these parts, the only way we can be seen and validated and bring those parts back in, is if we have a safe space. And since we don't trust a space to be safe, we try to control that space. And so this is where we get gender philosophies or gender ideologies that rely heavily on control, where it now becomes required of others to treat us a certain way. So now we can demand being seen the way we want to be seen. We can demand of others that they refer to us by the language we want them to use for us. And now we are using the method of control and controlling someone else's behavior towards us to try to integrate parts of separation. But in doing so, we are creating separation between us and the other person. And we're creating inauthenticity because now we're getting other people to try to engage with us, try to basically do our parts work and our integration work with us, not from a place of enthusiastic consent and completely free voluntary choice, but from a place of obligation. Because as soon as I say, well, here, this is my identity, this is my gender identity, and this is the language that you have to use for me, I am no longer getting an authentic reflection. I am getting compliance. Because people care. A lot of people care. And when I tell them this is how I want you to see me, this is how I want you to treat me, this is how I want you to refer to me and speak of me, people will comply. And it's not just out of fear. I mean, sometimes it's out of fear. Sometimes, sometimes people can be quite aggressive about trying to enforce the way they want to be seen, or they think others, should behave. But even when that pressure isn't there, people want to do the right thing, and they can see that it's important. They can see that there's a lot of emotion. And so even out of care, people will then use the right language and use the right way of behaving, but it won't satisfy. It won't ever be enough because it's not authentic. It's not freely chosen by the other person. And so those parts will feel validated temporarily, but never fully, because there's no choice on the part of the other person. And we have created a separation from the other person through our expectation and through the demand of them participating in this parts work, in this integration work, and in this attempt to heal that first separation of gender. So my position, or where I'm coming from, is not to dismiss the attempt, but to encourage an upgrade, and that upgrade is consent. It is so much more powerful to bring conscious awareness to this process, to start seeing it as the healing of our first separation, of a very deep wounding of separation that goes back to our youngest self, and to hold it in that way, and to let go of some of the other narratives about gender, of being born in the wrong body, or in like the medical model, or trying to figure out the neuroscience of what's wrong with my brain, or what's wrong with my genitals, or what's wrong with my body, and step into this deeper understanding of this is a really deep wound and it needs to be healed on a deep level. And then ask for participation in that integration and healing journey from a place of enthusiastic consent. Because when we are looking to integrate masculine or feminine parts that got split, and we get others who participate in that process with us, fully informed and fully by their own choice, who have the freedom to say, you know what, I'm not seeing it right now. Like, I know that the masculine or feminine or this expression or that identity is really important to you. And to be honest, right now, I'm not seeing that in you. But then to also give them an opportunity to explore, be like, where is that then? Like, where is the feminine? Where is the masculine? Where do those parts carry wounding? Where do those parts need love? And to do that in this authentic way, where those who participate in the process are freely choosing to do so, there's a power in that any kind of like I just don't know what to compare it to. It's just so different. It's on such a deeper level, and it can lead to an integration and a sense of wholeness and healing and love for the body and acceptance of the body and healing of that deep, deep, deep pain and that deep, deep, deep wound, and celebration of the self in its diverse expression. It's just, and that's the real thing. And no amount of political activism can go that deep and can meet those needs at that deep spiritual, real level. So I'm advocating for doing this work, but doing it more deeply and inviting others in. Inviting, not demanding, not coercing, not arguing, but inviting. And then real miracles and beauty can happen. Thanks for checking in.